Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family. In today's video, we'll be answering the big question. Was Paris Saint-Germain's 2025-2026 summer transfer window a success or not? In this video, we'll be going through the entire transfer window and grade it from 1 to 10. But before we do that, the best way to understand, at least my opinion, if this transfer window was a success, we'll have to react to my video that I made back in March of what I wanted in this transfer window for Paris Saint-Germain. And here we have it. Let's react.
Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family. In today's video, we'll take a look at the potential summer transfer window for Paris Saint-Germain and the absolute dream window this club could have. Goalkeeper. We obviously have Gianluigi Donnarumma, Matvei Safanov, and Arnaud Tenas. Donnarumma, his situation, he could potentially extend at the club. But Paris Saint-Germain obviously looking at Maignan and Chevalier, so we get more answers towards the end of the season. Matvei Safanov should be kept as the second goalkeeper.
I mean, yeah, even back then we knew of Chevalier. Obviously, this was before the insane knockout stages that Gianluigi Donnarumma had for Paris Saint-Germain, which made it clear for Parisians that we wanted him to stay and extend. But it is what it is.
And Arnaud Tenas should be loaned out as he was supposed to be last summer. Fullbacks.
And we know about Arnaud Tenas. He was obviously sold. Basically, Marin
Hakimi, mainstay, best right back in the world. But we would want a backup. At the moment, there's been no filter, no name in the reports. And here are my three suggestions. Thiago Santos from Lille, Vanderson from Monaco, and Alexander Ba from Benfica. For the left back position, once again, Nuno Mendes holds that side. And both him and Hakimi recently extended at the Parisian club as well. And I think Lucas Hernandez and Lucas Beraldo are good enough to be rotating in that left back role, especially with our left back sitting more deep than the right back. Centre backs. Currently have Beraldo, Lucas Hernandez, Pacho, and Marquinhos. I would honestly still get rid of Marquinhos. I would make this his last season at the club because we would need to move on from him, his age, and he still has a great price, which will help us in the upcoming transfer window. And I would go for two of these players, Ibrahima Konate, Dayot Upamecano, and Thomas Araujo, all heavily linked with Paris Saint-Germain. Next up for the two deep midfield.
So instead of getting rid of Marquinhos, we kept Marquinhos, but added Ilyas Zabarny.
Positions, obviously, we have Warren Zaire, Emery Mayulu, Fabian Vitinha, and João Neves. I would keep all four and get rid of Fabian Ruiz in the summer transfer window. Can't forget that Gabriel.
Wow, that's an L, man. That's an L, man. I guess Fabian hadn't come into his insane form of 2025 yet, but that's a huge L. Obviously, keep Fabian Ruiz.
Muscado is also returning, who is an interesting profile, who is admired by Luis Enrique. But I would also obviously sign 1 to 2 more midfielders. Baleba from Brighton would probably be maybe my dream, and Bruno Guimaraes is a top target, heavily admired by Luis Enrique as well. I would also be attentive to the Joshua Kimmich and Frankie de Jong situation, as I know Luis Enrique is an admirer of both players. Cam. Moving into the offensive 8 position, we obviously have Tanguy Lee and Desiree Doué. I would get rid of Tanguy Lee for the new sensation from Ligue 1, Magnus Achlios from Monaco, who would be a fantastic signing. And Paris Saint-Germain are also extremely interested in the Algerian.
Man, that's something me and every Parisian has wanted, but obviously did not happen. PSG were thinking about it, but did not happen.
And lastly but not least, the attack, what everyone's been waiting for. We obviously have Bradley Barcola, Ousmane Dembélé, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, and Gonçalo Ramos. This is way too weak, way too thin of attack, because I don't consider Tanguy Lee and Doué as attackers, rather as midfielders. We also have Mbaye, who could have more of an interesting season next season, but we do need to strengthen this attack. My first name would be Ryan Cherki, who can play both as a right winger, be a competitor to Ousmane Dembélé, and even as a false 9. If you can't get him because of the situation with Lyon, I would go for Quenda from Sporting Lisbon. I would come to the big one, Mohamed Salah. I know that Paris Saint-Germain are heavily interested in the Egyptian. Nasser absolutely wants him at the park, but for me, I think it's a no. I would much rather go for these other players than have 1-2 years of Mohamed Salah left over. I don't want to do Messi 2.0. My dream signing would be Alexander Isak from Newcastle, who splash that money we get as a striker they're going to have for the next upcoming 10 years. Swedish, who goes along with the Ibra narrative. Can't get him. I would love Lautaro Martinez. From what I know, Luis Enrique is also an admirer of him, and he would play that false 9 role to a T. When it comes to Gonçalo Ramos, I have no mind on keeping Gonçalo Ramos, but it's clear for me that Gonçalo Ramos is now what Paris Saint-Germain are looking for to have in the squad, and Luis Enrique doesn't rate him at that quality. So I would try to sell him in the summer and get a different kind of backup, either Mohamed Amora from Wolfsburg or Benjamin Sesko from Leipzig. If you can't get any backup, I would just keep Gonçalo Ramos and let Cherki, Kvaratskhelia, and Ousmane Dembélé be the backups for the false 9 position. Here's the beautiful 11. Donnarumma in goal, Hakimi, Konate, Lucas Hernandez, Nuno Mendes defense. Absolutely stunning. João Neves, Vitinha, Desiree Doué. I keep the midfield as it is when it comes to starters. And Kvaratskhelia, Alexander Isak, and Ousmane Dembélé up in attack. This is a full...
Man, I believed in Lucas Hernandez, but I don't do anymore. At least for the moment.
Full-fleshed, insane 11. But one important thing, obviously, with Paris Saint-Germain, it's not just the starting 11. It's the entire squad, because this will pretty much be the backup/rotation 11. Matvei.
Yeah.
Safanov in goal, Alexander Ba, Thomas Araujo, Lucas Turkey up in attack, 442 million. And we have good Ruinos, Carlos Soler, Fabian Ruiz.
The departures I expected, Skriniar, Mukiele, Asensio, Soler. Those were the only ones that left. Obviously, other players left as well.
Are not met, but from what I've seen from the club, from the reports, and my own opinion, this would be the perfect summer transfer window for
And that's the thing, when I make these videos, I'm always trying to make the perfect transfer window for Paris Saint-Germain. Does the perfect transfer window happen? No. Does it happen all the time? No. But now let's take a look at Paris Saint-Germain's transfer window after taking a look at this reaction. Start off with the signings. Lucas Chevalier obviously signed as the replacement for Gianluigi Donnarumma for 40 million euros from Lille. He's been good to very good so far at his start, and we know of Lucas Chevalier's quality. Nominated for the Yashin Trophy, won League and Goalkeeper of the Year ahead of Gianluigi Donnarumma, and obviously much more comfortable with the ball, something that Luis Enrique prioritizes in his football. After that, our basically other second signing, Ilya Zabarny, obviously bought him from Bournemouth for around 63 million. He's looked good so far, but I want to see him tested against the big sides and great attacking sides. I mean, Spurs not that good attacking, and the Ligue 1 teams we've faced so far have not been that good attacking. But Zabarny at the moment, it's good stuff, and this was a priority obviously for Paris Saint-Germain. Donnarumma, it was some of a priority as well, replacing him with Chevalier, who will be linked with for a very long time. But when it comes to Ilya Zabarny, it was the main priority. A right-footed centre-back that is younger, that is going to usurp Marquinhos in his position. So this is a great signing. And obviously we got Renato Marin on a free from AS Roma, with Arnau Tenas leaving the club, and that costed us 103 million euros. The departure is Zag on loan to Copenhagen, Hennash loan to Montpellier, Moscardo loan to Braga, Randall Kolomwani loan to Spurs, Skriniar for 10 million to Fenerbahce, Mukiele for 13 million to Sunderland, Gianluigi Donnarumma for 35 million to Manchester City, Arnau Tenas for 2.5 million to Villarreal, Carlos Soler for 8 million to Real Sociedad, Renato Sanchez on loan to Panathinaikos, Marco Asensio for 8 million euros to Fenerbahce, and Preston Kimpembe will be leaving Paris Saint-Germain to the Qatari League, where the transfer window is open until the 16th of September. So when we look at all the departures, I think Luis Campos did a very good job. Some of these players are players that we've been trying to leave for a very long time. If we start with them, you have Kolomwani. Obviously, last season was out on loan at Juventus, so he's someone we're trying to get rid of for a while. Skriniar was out on loan the entire season last season at Fenerbahce, or half the season. Finally got rid of him. Mukiele was out on loan at Leverkusen last season. He's also someone we've been looking out for a while. Gianluigi Donnarumma, a bit different, but still 35 million is a good price tag. Arnau Tenas obviously never had any future at Paris Saint-Germain. Good for him. Good for him. Very happy for Arnau Tenas. He's always shown, talent and so on, but never got to express himself the best way. Carlos Soler as well was out on loan at West Ham last season. Renato Sanchez has been out on many loans. He was at AS Roma, he was at Benfica last season, and now he's Panathinaikos, which just shows his stocks. He went from Lille to PSG to Roma to Benfica to Panathinaikos, and we still own him. We still own Renato Sanchez. I believe he probably has 2 years left in his contract. Marco Asensio obviously was out on loan at Aston Villa last season. Finally got rid of him. And Presnel Kimpembe, should have left the club in a while. And that has earned us 86.5 million euros in the transfer market, which is a 16.5 million deficit in this transfer market. So we sold really well. We got the main priority in a right-footed right centre-back. And they replaced Donnarumma, which was a huge priority for them. And this is how our starting lineup looks like. It's absolutely stunning. I've never questioned the starting lineup. I've never wanted to strengthen the starting lineup. Yes, I mentioned, Isak, but that was the perfect window I was looking for. And it's also, I'm missing that bling-bling signing. Paris Saint-Germain haven't made a bling-bling signing since, I don't know, Messi or something. I'm always looking for that big name. I'm looking at you, Erling Braut Haaland. But the starting lineups looks fine. And when we look at the backup lineup, Safanov, Beraldo, Lucas, that works for me. Zabarny. Obviously, no backup right back, which is something I looked for in that transfer with the video. I was looking for an additional midfielder, but Paris Saint-Germain did not go for it. Canguilí, Gonçalo Ramos are kept at the club, and we have Bradley Barcola as that weapon off the bench. But when it comes to the backup right back and even the backup left back position, there've come recent reports that Luis Enrique might try out these two centre backs. We have a lot of centre backs: Marquinhos, Lucas Hernandez, Pacho, Zabarny, and Lucas Beraldo. So we have 5 centre backs. So what's going to happen if Hakimi goes out with Morocco and AFCON? When he goes and plays there, instead of just playing Warren Zara Emery there or João Neves or even Sinema Yulu, who we've seen, we might see the centre-backs playing those positions, most notably Ilya Zabarny, because he can defend better in space than a Marquinhos, for example, who played right back, I remember, in the first leg versus FC Barcelona in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So we could see potentially Zabarny as the right back with Marquinhos and Pacho in the center, which would make Nuno Mendes push up similarly to Ashraf Hakimi. And we'll also see that on the opposite side with William Pacho taking the left back spot, playing Zabarny and maybe Lucas Hernandez in the centre-back spots, and then playing Ashraf Hakimi as the right-back, with Hakimi pushing up as usual. We actually saw Pacho play as a left-back versus Nantes. So I'm way less worried when it comes to the backup right-back position. One thing I want to make very clear as well is that Paris Saint-Germain have been very active in the recent January transfer windows. In the first one, we got Lucas Beraldo and Gabriel Moscardo, and in the second one, we got Khvicha Kvaratskhelia. Beraldo, he was cheeky, helped us in that Sociedad tie. Khvicha Kvaratskhelia was huge for us in the UEFA Champions League last season. So if the worst happens or an injury happens, or we definitely see, we need to strengthen this, we need to get this, Paris Saint-Germain could monitor the January transfer window. The name I'll be looking out for is obviously Rodrigo Mora, who rejected the move to Saudi Arabia, who's still at Porto. If he's still unwanted, we could go for him in January and get him for a cut price. There's also Magnus Achliush, who was interviewed right before the transfer window. Is he going to stay at Monaco? And he said, you don't know. Football, anything can happen. So even Magnus Achliush, Rodrigo Mora are two players that Paris Saint-Germain will be monitoring around when it comes to the January transfer window. But those are the positions that we've been looking for. So no backup right back will come in. No additional midfielders, especially with Warren Zara Emery trying to come back into form and Sinema Yulu having a larger role than he did last season. And the only remaining thing is potentially an attack, and that could be potentially fixed in the January transfer window. So now we come to answer the question. Was this transfer window a success or not? I do believe this was a success. Could it have been better? 100%. But I think the departures, Luis Campos did a really good job. He basically got rid of basically everyone we need to get rid of, cutting the wage bill with Randal Colomani, Marco Asensio. These were players that had a really high wage, including Gianluigi Donnarumma as well. We've cleaned through all of that, so the wage has never looked better. We got a lot of money from the transfers that we sold this summer. So the only remaining thing was that Magnus Achliush Rodrigo Mora tab. That was the only thing missing from Paris Saint-Germain's transfer window. And that's why I will grade this Paris Saint-Germain transfer window between a 7.5 and an 8.10. I think we did everything we needed to do, especially the main priorities. The two main priorities for PSG was replacing Gianluigi Donnarumma with Lucas Chevalier and getting in Ilya Zabarny so we can look better in the moments and obviously for the future. And we did that. We also got rid of majority of the players that we needed to get rid of. Yes, for example, the only one should have been better was Randal Colomani if we got an obligation or something. But Paris Saint-Germain, we're looking for around 60 million for Randal Colomani. No club, including Juventus and Tottenham Hotspurs, wanted to pay that full money for Randal Colomani. I've seen a lot of people criticizing the PSG transfer window. There was even one Fonkel, yourself, in the comments saying that this has to be one of the worst transfers in PSG history. But then I told him, you have to understand as well, going into this transfer window, this was the transfer window where we needed the least upgrades. The video we reacted to was back in March, before we won the Champions League, before Donnarumma came into crazy form, before Fabian showed us that he can be prime Euro Fabian at Paris Saint-Germain as well. So I don't think this was a bad transfer window. Yes, it was low in terms of how many players we signed to the club, but that's what was needed. Luis Enrique believes we have a full squad. He doesn't want to get too many players in and add too much competition. You can have too much competition. And Luis Enrique believes with the versatility of his players, Warren Zara Emery potentially playing as right back, we saw William Pacho potentially play as a left back, Kangin Lee playing in the midfield. He believes he has all the personnel needed. Kangin Lee, obviously, the report has always been clear. We would like to keep him, but if a good offer enough comes in for him, we will sell. So if Kangin Lee in January, a Premier League club, gets a major injury and wants to pay 50 to 60 million, the price that Paris Saint-Germain are looking for, we could sell him and buy Magnus Achliush or Rodrigo Mora. So I'm happy going into the season. I wanted a little bit more, but you always got to be greedy. You always got to have that winning mentality in you. But that's been it from boy PSGINT. Let me know in the comments down below, did you believe this transfer window was a success or not? And give it a rating from 1 to 10. That's been it from boy PSGINT. And as usual, allez Paris.